So I was sitting in the sitting room last weekend, and my son was sitting reading as he normally is with me, and he was looking at the title of my book, and he turned around and he said to me, "Mommy, that's not a very appropriate book title. Things went tits up." But I did explain to him your journey, Dearbhaile, and I explained to him what the book was like, and he was very interested in. But it was an interesting way for our conversation to start off.
Exactly. It's a good conversation opener anyway.
Yes, yes. And I think as kids, certainly, they hear so much about cancer now. It is a part of everyday life, and
Yeah,
I think just sometimes it's lovely to hear kind of the positive outcome, and the light at the end of the tunnel.
exactly. And
Um,
just make it a little bit less scary. Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
Yeah, 'cause otherwise, the big C word. It is a really scary word for everyone,
Yeah,
isn't it? And
absolutely.
your journey, would you like to just share, your
Sure,
journey?
of course. So I guess kind of towards the end of 2020 or 2021, I was having a rough old time with my back, and I ended up having a planned surgery and then an emergency surgery a few weeks later, and that resulted in kind of a slow, painful rehab of about 6 months. The world's slowest, couch to 5K, just building back up, walking from the couch to the front door to around the corner, all that. But basically, I was back on my feet, barely back on my feet, and I found a lump. And I just remember thinking to myself at the time, couldn't be, could it? Like that, it couldn't be that unlucky for it to be something sinister. So I put it to the back of my mind, which I would not recommend. But
Mm,
life got busy again. I was back working full time, exercising, all that good stuff. And it seems crazy now when I think of it, but my mindset at the time was kind of, I'm too busy to make a GP appointment. But the company that I work for, they ironically, they have this concept of wellness days, which is a fabulous benefit to have. So we got the first Friday off for each of the summer months, and I bit the bullet and I used one of those days to make an appointment with the GP and get this niggly lump checked out. So then she gave me reassurance that I was relatively young, fit and healthy, but because I was symptomatic with a lump, she referred me to the breast check clinic, and I got an appointment. Then I think it was about 3 weeks later. Um, and then I remember going to see the consultant, and I think my appointment was probably around 5 o'clock in the evening. And I left that appointment with a card in my hand for a mammogram the next morning at 8. So I kind of knew I was in trouble then. So next morning, went along and I had a mammogram, and that was followed then immediately by a ultrasound and then a biopsy. So that was like a triple assessment just before 9 a.m. And they said then that they'd come back, they take me back in a few days for some preliminary results and to bring someone along. And that was during COVID. So that kind of was nearly preparing me without having to tell me. So then I heard those words, the three words no one wants to hear, you've got cancer. And that was on the 24th of September, 2021. So I don't think you'll ever forget that date.
mm,
And it's the most surreal feeling in the world. Like it's just, it's hard to explain. I think it's kind of like the world around you stops, and then your brain takes off in flight, and it's going like a million miles an hour. And it sounds kind of cliched, but I remember kind of feeling like I was trapped in a silent movie because I could see that the doctors and the nurses and my husband, they're all talking, but like all I heard was white noise, and I heard two words, and it was cancer and treatable. So then I just hung on to that treatable word and for dear life. But anyone that's been through it, then they know that the next few weeks they're pretty miserable. It's tough going because you're living in uncertainty, kind of a limbo where you've got a lump, it's sinister, but you don't know quite how bad it is. So you have all of these scans and staging processes, etc. And I just remember at the time being so tired, but like I kept waking on the hour every hour, and again my brain was going, "There's something I need to remember here. There's something important." And then it's like, "Oh yeah, I've got cancer." So horrible old time. But then I think once I got my treatment plan in place, I got this really weird sense of calm. And I just realized, okay, this is out of my control, and I need to
mm,
trust in the process and trust in that magic that the oncology team are about to perform. And then it sounds a bit corny again, but I remember that day I got my treatment plan. I saw a thing on Instagram, and it was like saying, "You can do this, you will do this, trust and believe." So I
mm.
wrote that down. I took a screenshot of it, and I had it on my phone. And I thought, you know what? If I look at that every single day, I'm going to start believing that soon enough myself.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then treatment was it began, I think, in October of 2021. Yeah, it's hard to keep track of time. It was quite an aggressive treatment. So I had 19 months in total of chemo and chemotherapy and immunotherapy infusions every 3 weeks over the course of those 19 months. And then I had three surgeries. So I had a complete mastectomy and reconstruction, and I had some nodes removed as well. So then on the, I think it was the 14th of April, 2023, again, another date I'll never forget. I just remember sitting in the chemo chair for hopefully last ever chemo infusion and just watching that one last little drop and just been
Oh,
totally mesmerized by it. Literally thinking that one drop is what's going to hopefully separate me from being a cancer patient and a cancer survivor. And it's, again,
yeah.
such a bizarre feeling. Like it's joy, relief, disbelief, all wrapped up into one.
I can imagine. And I'd say, like, when you talk there about, sitting in the room and hearing that diagnosis, I'm there with you. I can totally
Yeah.
imagine that, it is that you just kind of, I'd say you just go into a parallel universe
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
like, and of course your head goes off on another tangent.
The what ifs, the buts. Yeah, exactly. Just racing ahead of everything. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's I guess that's anxiety coming in too, isn't
Yeah.
it? That it goes into all the kind of the what if scenarios. Dervin, can I
Exactly.
just ask
Yeah.
you, when you went, like, if we go all the way back and to
hmm
when you discovered the lump, were you actually doing regular checks, or what happened that you found it?
Yeah, I used to not be great at it, but then I have a couple of friends who have been through the breast cancer journey as well, and they were harping on at me to do these checks. So yeah, I was doing regular-ish, probably not every month, like I would
Yeah,
recommend people to do, but regular-ish. But yeah, I'd found it myself, and which is a good thing because at the time I think I was 45, so I wouldn't have been um automatically signed up for a mammogram until I think you're 50.
mm,
So yeah, it was a good thing. But I think once you are symptomatic, then it tends to be the rule of thumb that you'll be seen within 3 weeks in the
yeah,
breast check clinic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's kind of it's the power of, we can't underestimate doing the self check, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
No,
Feel them on the first. That's what everyone says. Set the reminder in your phone and go and feel them on the first.
that's really, yeah, and it's the easy way to think about it, isn't it?
Yeah,
I always kind of say we should be doing two monthly checks, the breast check and also the vulva check.
yeah,
So we're familiar, more awareness around vulva cancer as well, which is really, really important.
yeah,
Um, and in terms of, so your treatment was just over 2 years, was it 2 years?
yeah. Yeah, the bones of 2 years, yeah, which I hadn't fully expected. I think it was probably because I didn't have a what they call a PCR, pathologically complete response to chemo. So then after my surgery, I was put onto this pretty new drug called Kadcyla, which is a mixture of chemo and immunotherapy infusions, and that's to try and prevent your chance of recurrence. So yeah, I mean, it was amazing to kind of think that when I was first diagnosed, I don't think that drug was available in Ireland at the time. So just in that short space of time, this became available. And but yeah, it meant I had another 14 infusions, so one every 3 weeks, post surgery as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of, that's, it's just, I think it's anything like that where, it's a major wake up call, isn't it?
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, it just makes you, I suppose, prioritize and then really understand what's important and
Mm, mm,
how to look after yourself and mind yourself. And I think one of the things that surprised me was recovery. So that is a fairly tricky phase because people think, okay, you've got diagnosis and then you've got all of your treatment, and then suddenly you're released into the wild. Like you've gone from having hospital appointments nearly probably every week between bloods and scans and chemo infusions and surgeries, etc. And then you're unplugged and it's like, okay, see you in 3 months, whatever. And that's a tricky phase. I think that's one that can really get inside your head. And but again, having friends who've been through it before, they give me some great advice, saying, take your time to recover and to heal. And then it makes sense because you've been in fight or flight for so long. So in my case, it was best part of 2 years, and you're keeping your head down. You're just thinking, get through the next treatment, get another one off the list, and then it's finished. And then you kind of just come up for air, and you're thinking, what just happened? But I had a little plan up my sleeve. You're probably going to think I'm a bit nuts about this, but when I unplugged from the chemo on the Friday, I was it on the following Tuesday, I started a course in the National Training Centre to become a personal trainer. So that was kind of just to take back some control of myself. And then
Brilliant.
following on from that, I, I went on and I did a course remotely to become a cancer exercise specialist. And then just about 2 weekends ago, I got a strength and conditioning qualification with the NTC doing Olympic lifts. And like these are things I would never have thought possible when I was in the throes of those back surgeries and chemo. But they were definitely some of the best decisions I could have made for recovery. And it was just keeping my
Mm.
my head and my body busy doing something that I enjoyed, and then just bringing back the confidence as well. So like I have a poem that I can talk about later, but talking about what it feels like going back to a gym when you're in the midst of cancer treatment, and it's a scary old place. So now doing those courses, it just means that I understand how to modify exercises even for myself and adapt where necessary.
Yeah.
So just to definitely
That,
exercise with some sorry.
no, that's brilliant, isn't it? Because I think, when you're going through that journey, you can either just get kind of really stuck in the muck, can't you? And just
Yeah,
go
easily.
down, go down a dark tunnel. Or, what can help is if you can just distraction, I guess, Dearbhaile, is probably what it is, isn't it? And just
Totally.
trying to have other parts of your life that are kind of keeping you on an even keel with everything that's going on medically.
Absolutely. Like I remember having been through the back surgeries, it kind of gave me that wake up call of use it or lose it. And I was terrified that would happen again when I was going through chemo. So I had set myself a little goal of, getting out in nature every single day, bring the dog for a walk or just go for a walk myself, but then also to take a picture of something unusual each day. And that was just giving me something outside of the norm, outside of the hospital appointments to focus on. And then it turns out now that I have this little bank of photos to look back on that were just looking out for these little glimmers that you'd find every day. So it just
Yeah.
taught you to slow down, something outside of the routine of those hospital appointments.
Yeah, yeah, I love that because we can find joy in the mundane, can't we?
Yeah,
And I think depending on where your head is at, the simplest thing or some a different angle can give you a different insight. You know, um, when
definitely.
you were when you were going through treatment, did you find what else kind of helped you in terms of physically helped you in terms of keeping yourself strong and things like that? Any tips in relation to what others that are on this journey could look at?
Yeah, I think the two things that really, really helped me were exercise and writing. So just, I suppose, back on the exercise one again, that really, really helped me, I suppose, mentally, and it helped me physically, and it helped me emotionally, and um, it helped my tolerance of the chemos. It helped recover from surgeries quicker. But I think it just made me feel like me again. And then because it's a time that can feel desperately out of control, so it's a way of taking back control yourself. And just that, exercise just made me feel stronger. It helped bring back that confidence because you're stripped right back during chemo. Everything, your femininity, your hair, you're losing all of this, and you're losing your confidence, and you're losing a lot of strength as well. So I think it's just so important to keep moving. So even the simplest of movements on days when you're feeling rubbish, that's when you really, really should get out and just even spend the 5 minutes in nature. And it's funny, I was having a chat with a friend over the weekend who'd been through breast cancer journey as well, and she passed on a was an article in, I think it was in the Guardian, about these hope molecules. I don't know if you've heard about them, but they're saying that studies are showing that there's kind of a chemical connection between strength and mood and longevity, and that's why any form of movement, always makes you feel better.
Hmm.
Um, God, I hope I don't butcher it now, but they they were talking about these molecules. I think there were proteins called myokines or something that cross the blood-brain
Oh yeah,
barrier,
yeah, yeah,
and they
yeah.
yeah, and they act like these natural antidepressants, so elevate your mood. So basically, when you're exercising, you've got dopamine and you've got your serotonin, and then you've got these hope molecules. So it's like a happy hour for your head. It's just like a cocktail of mood boosters. Um, so definitely the exercise, even the gentle movement, like even just stretching on days you're feeling rubbish, that really, really helps. And then writing was the other thing that also really, really helped me. Um, just I always I wouldn't have been great about talking about feelings, but I've always got great comfort in writing them down. So I don't know if you want me to talk a little bit about the book
Yeah,
or.
no, I mean, I'm a journal freak. I'm like, I love, I love journaling. I'm always like, I generally post, if I'm off somewhere, the one thing I'll be Googling is kind of, a local paper shop, or, if I'm in
Yeah.
Italy, I generally come home with about 10 journals. Well, no, maybe five. But I get great relief from journaling. And it doesn't have to be, deep, intense journaling. Every night I do my gratitude journal, in just one of my
Lovely.
books. I think it's very powerful, and
Yeah.
I know I've read articles about this. And there is a difference between actually physically writing as opposed
Yeah.
to typing it on the laptop. And I think, yes, it's old school, but I'm happy with old school because I
Oh,
do
I'm all
think it's
about the old school. Definitely, definitely. Just writing down those notes, like you said. So, yeah, I mean, during the course of I suppose, the 19 months of treatment, I was scribbling down poems on my phone or in little journals like that as well. And at the time, I was thinking I'd just using it for me. It was a way, I suppose, of me getting it off my chest, as such. Excuse the pun. But um, as I went through,
that's a big one there,
unintentional. But I remember kind of just reading a few of the poems to people when I'd finished treatment, and then kind of thinking maybe I'd put it together in a book, just even for myself, something to look back on. And then there was back to these magic little moments, little glimmers, just a sequence of events that happened that resulted in the book. So I was coming back from the gym with a friend, and she was telling me about her friend who'd been through breast cancer. Um, and the book was on my mind at the time, and I just said to her, "She doesn't draw by any chance, does she?" And she said, "Yeah, yeah, she does. Jess, she's an illustrator. Do you know her?" And I'm like, "No." So it was total serendipity. So she put us in touch, and we met, and then Jess illustrated the book, and her illustrations, they're gorgeous. They just brought the book to life,
yeah,
really. And
yeah, yeah,
so I think it was kind of something that I'd like to have been able to put my hand to when I was going through treatment, and that the goal for the book would be that it would resonate and bring comfort and hope to anyone that's going
mm.
through treatment, particularly during those scary early days, and then also to give insight to anyone caring for a loved one that's going treatment through treatment as well.
And
So,
can
oh,
I
sorry, it's
tell
called
you,
things. Sorry.
I'll just tell you, I have a friend who's going through it at the moment, and she found great solace from your book.
Oh, that's lovely to
She
hear.
Yeah, so, and I think it's like I can imagine, like, when you're in the room and they gave you diagnosis, I can just imagine what that felt like. But I think as you go through all the different steps, I do think it'll resonate with the person who's going through it with you, or, if you've been through it before. So I
Yeah.
don't underestimate the power of words, Dearbhaile, because, they can reach very deep.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you so much. Yeah, I remember hearing it was an interview with Michael Caine, and it was just something that struck with me. He had a phrase, "use the difficulty," and he was kind of saying that there's never anything so bad that you can't reframe it and turn it around into something good, and that if you can use your difficulty kind of even 1% to your advantage, then you didn't let it get to you. So
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
the book is kind of an example of that, just having something nice out of a crappy situation, I guess. But if
yeah,
it can bring
yeah.
that little bit of comfort or hope to others, brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of, it's a strong word, but I mean, that is looking at I guess the positive side of it, isn't it? And unfortunately, so many women are going through breast cancer.
Yeah,
And
it's
now,
scary.
thankfully, treatment is better. But yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I think the stats for Ireland and the UK is 1 in 7 women. So it's frightening. Like I think it's 1 in 2 people will get cancer of some sort in their
that's
lifetime, and
right.
then it's
Yeah,
1 in 7 women will get breast cancer, and then men can get breast cancer too as well. I know it's rarer, but it's still a fact of life. Yeah, it's frightening to think how prevalent it is. But as you said,
yeah.
the treatment is just getting so much more sophisticated and a little bit more gentle. So yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah, no,
positive.
it is frightening, but I think this is where it's so important. The monthly check is just so important. And the other thing is, Dervin, I don't know if you're aware, like, is there other things to be keeping an eye out for other than looking for a lump?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not always a lump. I've heard of, women presenting that they might have had a rash or kind of puckering or the kind of an orange peel, almost like a cellulite type effect, or maybe veins might be a bit more prominent on the breast as well. And one thing that I didn't know before was that when you're doing a breast check, you'd also include under your arm and then up to your collarbone because the breast tissue extends out, all that area as well. So yeah, it's not always just a lump. It could be pain as well. But I think it's kind of, if you're worried about something, get it checked. You're not wasting
Yeah.
anyone's time. Go along and get it checked, and hopefully it's nothing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the other thing is getting on the breast check register. I know
Yeah.
I had mine done, I think, last summer. And actually, I had my initial one done, and then they rang me very quickly afterwards saying I don't know, something wasn't clear. So then I
Okay.
had to go to Vincent's and they did it again. But I think I'm actually quite small. I'm flat chested, maybe, I don't know. But so I think that always makes it more difficult. But I thought it was great. I was very happy that they were being so thorough to kind of,
Yeah.
have me back so quickly. So, I think we've thankfully that support is better, but just on, it just is such a tough journey once it starts, isn't it? Do you
But I think
feel?
it's to sorry.
Go
Oh, sorry, I
ahead
was going to
now.
say, I think just to normalize it and to talk about it is so important. So, like, if you're going for your mammogram, chat about it with your friends. So then hopefully it'll trigger them to go, okay, I must book one in, or I must check, just, make it, normalize it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And when you look at it, what about menopause then in the whole equation?
Yeah, that's oh
Let's bring that
men
in.
it's a tricky topic because obviously menopause, it's a fact of life. It's going to happen to all of us women at some stage or another. But then I think when it's chemically induced or surgically induced during cancer treatment, it just kind of feels like you're propelled into menopause at breakneck speed, and it's just another kick me when I'm down. And I heard so Dr. Lisa Reardon talking the other night, and she mentioned she referred to it as the crash menopause, which is so
Mm.
apt. So
Cliff edge
yeah,
menopause is what I
yeah,
generally, yeah, yeah,
absolutely. And then I just remember when getting ready for chemo, they give you kind of a list of all of these side effects that I know is a very long list that can happen. And just one little word on that sheet was menopause. And I don't think like I quite understood what it was going to mean. But like it's tough because you're going through cancer treatment, and then on top of all of that, you have menopause symptoms of the hot flushes. The joint pain was a big one for me, weight gain as well, like all that joyful stuff. So it's just kind of like a bit of a double whammy. So you've got your chemo brain, you've got your menopause brain, and I
yeah,
definitely spent, I'd say, the first year and a bit just kind of walking around in a bit of a fog, going, coming into a room, going, "What am I doing in here?" Or forgetting
yeah,
simple names, names for everyday objects, names for people you know all your life.
mm,
Um, so I think I heard this good analogy of it's for cancer-induced menopause as opposed to the natural menopause. Like if you think of the natural menopause, you've got this estrogen tap or your hormone tap, and it's slowly being turned off, but you're still
mm,
drip
mm,
feeding some of the hormones into your system. But for certain cancers and certain cancer subtypes, like the estrogen receptor positive subtype, which was one of the subtypes I had, estrogen helps the cancer cells to spread and grow. So they need to, cut off that estrogen pretty abruptly. So that leads to the cliff edge menopause where you're just propelled into those symptoms straight away. So it's tough. And then there's the added kicker of with that subtype of breast cancer, you can't take HRT. HRT, it's a no-no. But there are, there's plenty of things that we can still do, just empowering ourselves to get through it. And things that I found helpful were just working on the basics. So you're getting your sleep right, you're getting your nutrition as right as possible. Just eating balanced meals. Um, then also exercise. So they're talking about this. I think it's 150 moderate minutes seems to be this magic number, but
mm,
so that maybe 3 by 30 minutes of cardio sessions per week. And that could be down to just walking with a dog, walking with your buddy, but just getting slightly out of breath for um, those 30 minutes, and then 2 30 minutes resistance trainings sessions. So that's like strength training, and that could be with just your body weight, or it could be lifting weights. But that's
Mm.
going to help strengthen your bones, help ward off hopefully osteopenia or osteoporosis. But it's building your muscle, it's giving you back energy and confidence. So it's just all about investing in that future old lady bod.
Yeah, it is that. Yeah, I like that's the good side of it in terms of whatever you do, food wise, movement wise, you
Mm.
are investing in the future. I
Yeah,
always say, that is one of the opportunities of menopause. But the
yeah,
other thing is just to say when you were talking about, the cliff edge, the crash that happens with early menopause, either surgical or medication induced. The way I look at it, Dearbhaile, is natural menopause is a privilege. Because I do a lot of work with women going through the earlier forms of menopause, and they are far more challenging. I mean,
yeah,
that firsthand. The symptoms tend to be much more intense, from the brain fog, from the anxiety, from the vaginal dryness, and the hot flushes. They just tend to be more intense. And it is like you don't have that nice gradual introduction to menopause that
yeah,
you get with natural menopause. So, like that tap analogy, yeah, you literally, overnight or maybe over a period of weeks, that
yeah,
supply finishes. And I think too, like, when you were saying there about, you're going into a room, why am I there? You're forgetting names. That's scary.
yeah. It is. It is. Or just your concentration. Like I couldn't watch a movie with my hubby. He'd be like, "Come on, we'll watch a movie," but like half an hour and I'm done. I had to go and do something else. Just yeah, concentration completely shot. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And I think, but when all of that comes together, it
yeah,
is like it's the perfect storm, isn't it?
yeah.
It's like,
It is. It
and I
is.
think, I think your testament to how to positively bring yourself through what is a really, really challenging, tough journey. And, I think, like, it's a lovely, empowering message for anyone listening to, like, to look at the steps that you took. And I think even to kind of, as you said, you were learning new things, going off doing the personal training, all of
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
mean, I think you probably, I know if it was me, I would be, I 100% get you. I'd have to do something because I
yeah.
think otherwise I'd probably be constant rabbit in headlights.
Oh, totally. It's just about kind of trying to take back a little bit of control, or
Mm,
just controlling what you can control as such.
mm,
Just
mm.
and that's just getting those basics right as well. Yeah.
Why do you think, because I know, like the confidence takes a knock with menopause.
Mm.
That's something we kind of talk about a lot. But cancer really impacts confidence too, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Again, it's just because you have to just give into it and just go with it, and then like you can't control losing your hair, and that is, I think for me that was an area that I struggled with that I didn't expect to, but I think it was because
Yeah. Oh. Mm. Mm. Yeah, no, I mean, look, exercise. Oh gosh, I just find, that's my go-to. And even like you said earlier, if I'm really struggling, really tired. Now, there's some days, yeah, you just know you're better off just go to bed. But if there's other days where I know a walk around the block will do me better, Just when you mentioned there the returning to work, I think that's something we maybe don't talk about enough when it comes to breast cancer. Because if you think about it like that, you're off for a long time, you're in a bubble. Generally, you're in a bubble of, as you said, hospital appointments, etc. And all of a sudden, you're back into, probably you're doing your job, and yes, I'm sure it's return to work on a phase basis. Um, but that is it's another adjustment, isn't it? Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, that's great. And it's like, I often talk about ikigai. It's a Japanese phrase, and it's really, about, it's up for all of us looking at, in your life, what's your passion, what's your purpose, what do you love doing? And it's just making sure that you bring parts of that into your everyday. So that's like you having, doing the PT training, whatever it is, that's the ikigai. And it's really important for all of us that we have that, because that's what makes that's what makes life fulfilling. That's what kind of, you're bringing all of it together to, kind of harmonize, I guess, And I think too, I would imagine um, going through a cancer journey, you are going to be a different person the other end in some shape or form. 100%. Yeah, yeah, 100%. Thanks so much for sharing the journey. And would you read your poem, your menopause poem? Um, And we will put details of Dearbhaile's book in the show notes as well. And it is for anyone who's going through a cancer journey, breast cancer. It's such a lovely, supportive, I think, little friends to have on the journey with you. Oh, it ticks so many buttons that we can all relate to. Oh my God, doesn't it? Yes, we can all relate to that for sure. Dearbhaile, thanks so much for coming on today. And I'm so glad to see that you're on the other side of your journey. And I like honestly, I can just tell you from my friends who's currently going through it, this will make people smile who are sitting maybe having chemo treatment. And I always kind of think if we can help one person, that's a nice day, and it certainly always makes me smile. So it's a beautiful, beautiful book. So thanks so much. Thank you.